Well, hello, Kelly Walsh here, and I'm working today on a classical waltz. And those of you who know my music know that I like to experiment in different genres, and of course, orchestration. Understanding orchestration, like in this case, I'm focusing on string sections, can be used and is used in all forms of music, and it's just a fantastic exercise to use a tool. So I'm using Noteflight. I started with this probably a year or so ago. Didn't really, I know some fundamentals of music theory, and it's essential to be versed in how to scales and chords and intervals and such work, and how does rhythm work. But I was far from. I still have a ton to learn, especially about rhythmic notation. That was something I really just didn't know well. Remembered a little bit from having seen it in courses in my youth. But using this tool, so Noteflight is a tool you can try it out for free. And I used it for free for a bit, and then I paid, I think, $53 a year for an annual license. And there's other tools out there. I know Muse Score is one. And then some DAWs have a scoring tool, and I use Cubase, and I want to learn the scoring tool, and that's part of where I'm going with this video and this exercise. But first, just again, coming back here, starting to use a tool like this and doing notation. One thing that's really cool is that it's cloud-based, so you can get on any browser and pull up your music that you're working on and work on it. So that's awesome. And so with this tune, I had written a melody on piano, and then I did a little orchestration initially with the violin section playing chords, and then I've been learning more about the orchestration process thanks to Transcend Entertainment Music team, who I full disclosure, I am a part of that group, and I work with that group. And they can be found online at teammusiclicensing.com. And in a weekly mastermind recently, Gary Gray had David Fogel, who they are partnered 50-50 on the Symphonina Foundation, which can be found at symphonina.org. And David was doing a piece on building orchestration in our weekly mastermind sessions, which is a great, every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern for an hour and a half. Gary Gray runs a mastermind session talking about many of the different, all of the different aspects and on the entire assembly line of what it is to make music for sync licensing and trying to get it licensed. And David presented on orchestration again this last couple of weeks, and that was really helpful. So, for example, one of the things that I learned, I had created chords in the violin section, and a more traditional, proper way to orchestrate something like that is to break the chords down and have different sections of the different strings, play them, and go with the bass, alto, tenor, soprano. Layering. So typically the bass would be a double bass. Now I don't have any double bass in this particular track at present. And then the alto would fall to the cellos, the tenor would fall to the violas, the soprano would fall to the violins. And that's just, a general rule. So what I did with this piece was take the chords I had, being played by violin section, and have the uppermost note played by the violins, add the violas, and had the middle note played by the violas, and then the lower note played by the cellos. And so that's this piece here. Let me go ahead and play that for you. Right, from there, it just repeats as I was starting to work on fleshing it out a little more, or where to go from there. I do have, in some cases, you'll notice I have some sort of voice leading kind of where a certain instrument will be playing a little more, a few additional notes as we move from one chord essentially to another. I am very much a novice a composer in terms of writing in this context, so I'm sure I'm breaking some of the rules of cantus firmus and techniques about how to do this best. But having fun and learning. And my next, oh, by the way, the other thing too is you'll see a lot of these notes have the actual note values in them, which is something that Noteflight can do, and then some of them later on didn't, because as you write the new notes, you got to kind of tell it to add the note values in there. But my next step with this, and it'll be part 2 of the video, is going to be to export this to MIDI, pull it into Cubase, and then assign instruments. So I use the East-West Composer Cloud, which provides brilliant recordings of all these instruments, so that you get real instruments when you play your MIDI. And the sounds here in Noteflight are perfectly functional for composing, but they're not nearly as rich as really full instruments. So I'll be working through that in the next video. Stay tuned.